All right, there was a movie that was released in 1996 called The Ghost in the Darkness. You guys ever heard about it? Well, you guys are missing out. It was about the Tsavo man-eating lions. You guys laugh, but just wait, okay? The British Empire, in March of 1998, during the first 9 months of construction, a rail across Africa, there were 2 man-eating lions that would drag workers out of their tents in the middle of the night. They tried to scare the lions away with every trick in the book, but to no avail. Finally, work on the rail actually stopped, and men began to really try and hunt these lions. Some quote that over that period of time, there were over 135 victims. It has been determined, though, that the number might have been closer to 35. But like I said, we weren't there, so I'm not going to, give the authoritative stamp of approval. That were drug out of the tent and eaten. Patterson, an engineer, was able to bring down both lions over 20 days of hunting. And from what I've been able to research, it took 9 shots from a high-caliber rifle just to bring down the second lion. I think it took like 11 or something for the first one. The lions got shot in the mouth. It didn't stop them. They were actually hunting him while he was hunting them. So in the Natural History Museum at Chicago are these 2 lions. It's a real story. Nikki and I have seen the lions. These are a lot smaller than they were. I didn't want to show you the picture of how big they were because they were sort of shot and stuff, and I don't want to traumatize you. But they were maneless male lions. So if you're in the mood for a scary movie to watch one night, Ghost in the Darkness is that movie because it's happened in real life. Now, I want us to imagine. So why do I start this week with this really gruesome, weird story about 2 man-eating lions? Now, I want you to imagine the fear of those workers. You're just trying to make a living for your family, and night after night, you hear screaming of somebody in the giant camp yard being dragged out of his tent and eaten by a lion. Would you be excited when nighttime came around? I know I wouldn't be. I have a hard enough time with spiders. And then here's these lions. We face a lion far scarier than the Tsavo man-eating lions. We fight against a ghost lurking in the darkness. And he is ready to devour and to destroy every one of us. Now, in today's society, when you talk about the devil, or when you talk about Lucifer or Satan, it is usually brought on with smirks. I'll be honest, okay? It is, you really believe that? I mean, look at this guy. Is that guy really that intimidating? And the devil is made out to be a joke. But what better camouflage is there for a lion to be considered a joke? A lion doesn't care how you view him as long as he gets to eat you and as long as he hunts you. We have an enemy that is walking around now seeking to destroy Christians. Make no mistake, he is out there. He doesn't care how you see him. He wants to destroy you. And Peter is giving this message to this last group, to this group of exiled Christians. This is his last real challenge. And he warns them, in the midst of your suffering, there is a lion lurking. He is waiting for you to get so concerned with your suffering and the hardship that you are going through that the lion will sneak up on you and destroy you. And Peter wants to leave this last thought with them. Christians, you are going through a hard time. But look up and be ready, because there's even something scarier out there. And he gives us a couple of stances, a couple of ideas that we can take with us as we arm ourselves against this adversary, the lion. So look at 1 Peter chapter 5. Verse 8, it says, be sober-minded. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. To him be the dominion forever and ever. Amen. He starts off in verse 8. He gives two imperatives, which are Greek words for these are commands. They have that tone of a parent to a child, go pick up your room. Or a boss to an employee, I need you to do this. It carries with it a level of authority. And here he says, Christians, I want you to be sober-minded. To be watchful, sober-minded. It's pretty obvious, but being sober is the opposite of being drunk. And hopefully, no one here has gotten drunk before. If you have, then, please do not ever do it again. If you guys remember, and I went to the high school I went to, our science class was right after lunch, and I happened to be in a group with an individual who would get plastered every time during lunch and then come to class. And I got to do my dissection science projects with him. I've seen it. I've been around it. I've interacted with it. But your emotions, your hand-eye coordination, your normal thought processes are off. Things are just not quite normal. Many people have tried driving under the influence of alcohol, and it has killed numerous people. And the fact is, we get mad at the people because they should have never gotten that car, but being drunk actually limits your inhibitions and your common sense. It's dangerous. And Peter's like, guys, wake up. Think through this. Control your mind. Be sober-minded. Do not act like one who is under the influence of something else. Be sober-minded. And then he says, be watchful. Look up. It's stop looking around what's going on around you, but look up and look out. One of the tactics they teach you in soccer is, for a lot of times, kids they'll get the soccer ball to be at their feet, and they will look down at the soccer ball and their feet. And they're trying to figure out how to kick it so they can go down the field. But what happens when you look down? You're no longer looking out. When you're no longer looking out, that's when the defender loves to come in and completely destroy you on the way to get the soccer ball. We have to look up and look out and look at the danger that's coming. We need to be sober-minded, to be watchful, because we have an enemy. And this is our first point here in verse 8. We have to face the adversary. We cannot turn away from the adversary. We have to look and keep our eyes on the danger that's coming. Lions, when they hunt, never go after the strongest animals first. It's too much work. There's too much risk. The last thing you want to do is take on a healthy wildebeest or a zebra who can kick you so hard it breaks your jaw. For a lion, you lose your jaw, you're in trouble. They will usually hunt the person that is out, not the person, but the animal that is alone, or a weak animal, or a child animal, and everyone's. But even then, big, healthy animals are still vulnerable. See, if you guys can see the picture, these are sheep. Peter, just here a few weeks ago, attached, pretty much called Christians in a church sheep. Then you have a shepherd, okay? Now, sheep are a funny animal. As I've been reading through Peter and other things, I slowly try and do more and more research on sheep. But sheep have a very funny mentality when it comes to danger. They run because they really have no natural defenses. But what they do, and they do it really well, if you look, all these sheep, they're facing one direction. They have their eye. When they detect danger, they gather together, and every single one of them watch. They watch the danger. They know where it's coming from. I actually learned this. So after fleeing, after sheep scatter and run, sheep will reform their group and look at the predator. They use the natural herding instinct to band together for safety because they realize if a sheep is alone, a sheep is in danger. A sheep that is by itself is vulnerable to attack. Also, sheep, I never knew this, but sheep never walk in a straight line. And it's because of their funny eyeballs. They always walk sort of like this weird zigzag, because this way, this eye can see you. I can't, because I'm not a sheep. But they can always look. So they're always able to see what's going around them. So they're always watching where they're going for fear of something like a lion or an animal sneaking up on them. Because we have to be honest about ourselves. When you compare ourselves to the adversary, the devil, we are like sheep. Don't think of yourself as a bear or an elephant. No, we are dumb, stupid sheep compared to the power of our adversary, the devil. Make no mistake. I know it's been a popular thing. The church is going to fight the devil and we'll kick him in the face and we're awesome because we're the church, and the devil's like, fine, think that all you want. I'm still going to eat you. The only reason sheep are strong is because of Jesus Christ. That's the only reason we have it, okay? But humanly speaking, when we think of ourselves, we are a sheep. And the natural instinct that we should have is to draw closer together, not away. Have you guys noticed when people begin to live in sin, and they haven't before, one of the first things they do is they separate from the church. They will flee the flock because they believe it's safer out there. The fact is, you're toast out there. Apart from the church of God, it is hard to stay safe. That also is a challenge to the church. Guys, we have to keep creating an environment that it is safe to be in. You know what I mean? Sheep don't want to come into a place where they're in danger here, danger out there. We have to draw together. The lion is coming. We have to, as sheep do, face our adversary. We have to keep on the lookout. Now the second one, let's keep going here. It says verse 9. Resist him, firm in your faith. And this is the next imperative. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. There comes a point in time, though, where that lion, no matter how much you watch, will catch up with you. You can only back away so much. Like I said, the devil is not an idiot. Lions are not dumb. Usually they hunt in packs. You pay attention to one, they sneak up on you there. I was going to show you guys some National Geographic footage of lions hunting wildebeest and giraffes and zebras and elephants and stuff, but then I decided our service should stay rated PG and not, But they will sneak up on you. So eventually they go, and so the second point is resist the adversaries. Peter says, there comes a point in time where you can no longer stay away from the roaring lion, but this is what's fun. Some sheep are equipped with these really cool things. They're called horns. And their head right here is really hard. They have mountain goats and stuff in Colorado, they like to run into each other. It's really cool to see. It's really loud. They got a hard head. There comes a point in time where Peter says, resist him firm in your faith. There comes a point in time where, sheep, we're not the smartest thing, but there comes a time where the animal is here. We can't run anymore. We have to turn, lower our head, and resist the attack that's coming. From a human perspective, the basis of Christianity is faith. And that's where it says in verse 9, in order to resist him, the establishment, we have to be firm in our faith. Resist him firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced. The lion, the roaring lion, the devil, he is trying to destroy our faith. It is really disheartening to listen to people whose faith is gone. They've been beat up so many times. They have been shredded. They've been out there and their faith is gone. They're like, in essence, it's like, I don't trust God to take care of me. I don't trust the church to have my back. Listen to people talk about their politicians. I don't trust them anymore. You can just hear it in their voice. They're just like, ugh. And this is what happens. The devil is seeking to destroy our faith. Now, what I want us to think about this. So, by nature, faith is resting in the power of something. Okay, so, like you guys all sat on the pews today. Did anybody's pews fall over? No? You guys all sat down, right? You guys trusted that our pews that have been around for mucho long time, like 50 years, so, would keep holding you for another week. We rested in the power of the pew. Nice and firm. Now, when we have faith in Jesus Christ and faith in God, what we are doing is we are pronouncing what we view about that individual. So you guys all sat down on the chairs, without even thinking about it, you pronounced, I believe these pews are solid. It's really funny watching. I think there's a couple of pews we've had that tip over, not like tip, but they like wobble. It's funny watching people freak out because their faith has been questioned here. Now this is why I just want to say this. True and accurate theology is so important. Because errant theology misrepresents our God. And if we have errant theology produces misguided faith, which creates confusion and hopelessness. And this is why it's really important that we study the Bible as is, as it was written, and we understand to who it was written. Because if we claim and we think through things that aren't necessarily ours to claim, what ends up happening when that goes wrong? Our faith is damaged. So it is a big deal to study what the Bible says about who God is, about the promises that we have in Jesus Christ, and to rest in that, because the devil is out to destroy it. The devil is out to destroy it, and we have to resist firm in our faith and the work of Jesus Christ. And the fact is, Jesus Christ, through his work on the cross, conquered sin, conquered death, and conquered the current hardship in the situation you were in. He has already won. And so often it's just figuring out how we have already won in the midst of that situation. You're going through the suffering here, you're going through it here, and we have to stop and think, Jesus Christ has already conquered this. I can rest in that. I can rest in him. We have to be firm in our faith. Now, let me see. First, can someone tell me how hot it is, Henry? How hot is it in here? Look at the thermometer. Look at your around. Press that sucker down till 70. I think someone turned it off. Because I'm sweating a whole lot more than I should be sweating up here in the pulpit. And I'm not even that excited, guys. Turn it to, is it to 70? Wow, okay. I'm sitting here like, my goodness, guys. Sorry. I'm like, man, all right. Let's just bask in this air conditioning for a second while I get my bearings. I'm like, I have a hard time thinking when it gets too hot. All right, so now I want us to, okay, so let's think about this verse 9, because how do you end up fighting the devil, okay? How do you resist him? You can say that, but still though, what does it look like though? Because even the armor of God, yeah, you don't walk around, yeah, like I got my Bible, what are you gonna do? Slice and dice him? I mean, we got to think a little more tangible here, okay? We can talk all the imagery. Oh, that's good. What was that? Psych out the devil. Sick your mind. No, I mean, it's like a... I just want us to think, I want us to just stop, and so let's just ponder this. So we have you're on the right track though. You're doing a good job. So you're going to preach next week. All right. So first we have to watch. We have to look our minds, we have to look, okay? And in our life, what we have to realize first is, in any situation that we come across of suffering and hardship, what the devil desires in the midst of that situation is he wants you to doubt Jesus Christ. That's what he wants you to do. At the very first and foremost, doubt that God has a plan for you, doubt that God is working in the situation, and doubt that God is in control of it. Can I be honest? How often do we panic when hardship happens? Even if it's micro panic. We just get overwhelmed with what could happen. Oh no, something bad could happen. Something this, we doubt instantaneously. We are already, right off the bat, questioning, is God in control of the situation? Does God have my best interest here? And we question that. That's a very natural human response. Okay? Now, when it comes to resisting the devil, there comes a time where your faith will begin to be attacked, and you'll begin to question things. As Christians in culture, we should be very highly adaptable individuals. I mean, we should. We should be able to adjust. That's the great thing about the message of Christianity, is we Christians adapt to almost any culture in any situation because our faith is actually pretty simple. There is a reason why when you follow the trajectory of Islam around the world, they force culture under them. It is. They transform the culture. Christianity, it thrives anywhere because there's only one thing that's important: Jesus Christ and him crucified, period. It is, at the very basic level, it is that, and I am complete in his work. And so, in our culture right now in America, Christians naturally didn't make a big deal about a lot of stuff. Some like to squawk over everything, okay? And you guys know who those Christians are. But overall, Christianity as a whole just flexed and bent and moved and adjusted and adjusted. Now, up until the point where you had the issue of homosexuality that came up. And suddenly, as a block, Christianity stopped bending. And they turned, and they stood their ground. And suddenly, you have this collision of a biblical Christian ethic with what the world wants. And we've been watching it for the last few years. It just happened. Eventually, Christianity is like, nope, we can't budge on this one. No matter what is said, we cannot say that this is right or we'll accept this. We just can't. We love you guys, but we just can't. And suddenly, the world is like, wait a minute. And it plows right into it and suddenly have this huge line in the sand. Now, when a lion or an animal is about to eat you and you turn and fight back, it's not like that animal stops and just gives up. Oh, well, he was serious about fighting. I'll leave now. No, he's still gonna fight you. And that's where, as a Christian, when we turn and stand our ground, we cannot expect a roaring lion to just stop messing with us. Oh, well, that sheep was okay. I'll just walk over. No! He's going to get us. So when that happens in your life, when you are being questioned and when you are starting to doubt your faith and who God is, and you turn and say, no, God, I trust you. I don't know what you're going to do here. I trust you. It's not magically going to get easier. Rainbows aren't going to start shooting from the sky. Beams of light aren't going to come down from heaven. I think we think that sometimes. I claim Christ and now my life is easy. It doesn't happen. It doesn't. Life is hard. And we can see this in this last one. So we've been building up to look at verse 10. And he actually says, all kinds of sufferings are being experienced by your brotherhood. This is why we got to have a herd mentality. We're not all by ourselves. Everybody is suffering here. Everyone's going through hardship, Peter's saying. People are suffering. And he says verse 10, and after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace. This is right after Peter's command of you to watch and resist. You're still going to suffer. I hate saying that because I really wish I could tell you guys from the pulpit here. I really wish I could tell you, yeah, if you guys just, pray and claim it or claim and, there's a phrase for it, but name it and claim it. Boom, everything goes away. That is a lie. Your life isn't going to necessarily get better because you claimed Jesus in the midst of that situation. Perfect example. You resist, and after you have suffered for a little while, and we have no idea what a little while means. Does a little while mean death? Well, you're just going to suffer for a few weeks because then you're going to be dead. We don't know what he's saying here. We don't. But he says, after you've gone through your suffering, is this last one. In essence, wait for rescue. After you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will come and confirm, strengthen, and restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. And I love the imagery on this, because after you've been in a fight, have you guys ever watched what happens when people have been in a boxing match? Their faces look like mangled messes. Have you ever rode your bike and you collided with the ground? You're gonna beat up. Fighting with a wild, crazy lion that is trying to eat you, you are not going to leave unscathed. You will leave hurt and damaged. You will leave for a while questioning and doubting. I don't know about you guys, but when I go through some suffering things, it takes me a while to recover. I'm still recovering from certain things that have happened. It takes a while to heal. But the promise is this: after you have suffered a little while, whether it's here on earth or it's in heaven, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ. So Peter's bringing our attention right back into the work of Jesus Christ on our life. It's all based on that and what he has done for you. It says he will restore. He will heal you. He will bring you. He will confirm. So that faith that was being assaulted in the midst of that hardship, and you're left like, you had faith, but my goodness, I was tested. You got beat up. God is going to confirm that, hey, I was here. You saw it. Look back. He's going to confirm it. And then he's going to strengthen you and establish you and place you. The result is after you have suffered. Wait for rescue because Jesus Christ is coming and he will restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. And there is no time limit on this. It's hard. Now, there's a guy by the name of Roger Parkinson. He was answering a question about how a flock of sheep protects itself. And I thought this was interesting. So this is this guy's experience. He says, we have 4 domestic sheep. 3 of them are ewes, which are girls, and 1 of them is a wether, which is a castrated male. Poor guy. The wether is an old guy with a limp, okay? We call him Limpy. There aren't any predators here in New Zealand that attack sheep, but they worry about dogs. He says, we've seen the dog next door come across the field once or twice, and it's one of those tiny yappy things. And probably has no real danger on a sheep, okay? But nevertheless, it is a dog. And when our 4 sheep see it, the girls flock up. They have a flock of 3, okay? That's pretty much all they got, all right? And Limpy positions himself out front between the dog and the flock. If the dog gets close, if the dog gets close, the male will lower his head and stamp his front foot, which might be awkward because he has a limp, okay? But he doesn't have horns, but he's pretending he has or something. If the dog continues to approach, they all run for it. Except one of the ewes, who is smarter than the rest, and will also baa very loudly. And this is why that was neat. She's calling us to come see off the dog. So it's quite definite. She doesn't baa unless she wants someone to come help. She calls when she reckons we should move them and get a new padlock. She calls them when one of the others has rolled over and can't get up. She calls when there are plums on the trees and she can't reach them. And she calls when there is danger and she hopes we can sort it out. So what do domestic sheep do to protect them from predators? They call a shepherd. They cry out for rescue. And they wait and hope for rescue from the shepherd. We are in the same situation. Literally, when I was reading this, I'm like, this guy should have preached the sermon. Because pretty much, these sheep flock together, keep their eye on the predator. Limpy tries to resist. He stomps his feet, gets back. Crud, this little yappy dog is not, so I will run as well. I'm done resisting, get out of here. And they start bang, help, help, help. Guys, when we go through suffering, this should be our response. We should back up, keep our eye on the danger. We should resist and we should cry out for help because the promise is after a while, Jesus Christ, the God of all grace, he is coming to rescue, restore, and build us up. The lion is hiding in the bushes, waiting to destroy you. If you are currently going through suffering, I know this is hard. This is really hard. Keep your head up. Because it is in those moments of weakness that the lion is hoping to pounce. Hope is coming. Hang in there. So face the adversary, resist the adversary,